Hey everyone, Erin here. I just wanted to say a quick word before we begin. We all decided that we should celebrate Black History Month, so we're talking about some of our favorite books, but we just wanted to let you and all of our listeners know that we here are allies of the Black community, and we in no way pretend to know the struggle that is faced every day. So I myself am of mixed race, but even I, along with all of the lovely ladies here, want to acknowledge our privilege. And at the end of the day, we really just want to talk to you about books. So we will continue to recommend, in our opinion, amazing and diverse reads that hopefully all of our listeners can see themselves in. And I hope you like some of our recommendations. So let's get started.
Hi, my name is Shelby. I work at the Brooklyn branch as a branch assistant. My pronouns are she, her. And this month I chose to read Opposite of Always. Here it is, by Justin A. Reynolds. It is a teen YA romance, and I was very hesitant to start reading it because I really didn't want to cry. And the whole concept of this book is that this young boy named Jack falls in love with a girl named Kate while he's visiting a college tour for the weekend. And they immediately hit it off. They talk all night. They start a whirlwind relationship where, you know, things go wrong, things go right. And at the end, she dies. And it's because she has sickle cell. And so I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, she dies. Like, that's the end of the book. Nope. He gets thrown into a time loop. And so he's stuck on a time loop of their 4-month relationship for a very long time. And he has to try and fix it and try and save her in the end every time. And, you know, once she dies, he gets reset. Final loop, they all kind of figure everything out. And what I really loved too was Jack said, I went through this time loop many, many, many times, but I just really didn't want you to have to watch me fail so many times because like for us, I think it's only like 5 times he goes through the time loop. That's all we see. We don't really see anything else other than that. And it's good to, he realizes that, you know, he failed, but he kept going and he kept going. He's like, sometimes I failed several times and gave up and did nothing and just watched everything happen. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I just realized I need to love my family. I love my girlfriend and do everything that I can to make sure that we all stay together and all love each other. And it was so sweet. And I think it's so rare to find a book that is about people of color who just show the love and life in their you know, in their everyday lives, whether it's you know, falling in love or having a great family or whatever. It's such a beautiful story of being in love and falling in love and loving your best friends and your parents and having all of the support that you could possibly need in your life and like what that does to a child growing up. And, you know, he feels like he's just average. That's all he ever feels like. He's, you know, almost a Victorian, almost a football player, almost a basketball player, but he never quite makes it. And I think at the end, he realizes that it's not necessarily about achieving those minute goals, but having all of the love and life in your relationship with your people that make the difference. And I really loved the moral of the story, and it was just so sweet. And it was just, if you're looking for a book that's just going to make you happy about having best friends and falling in love and having a nice little family, then like this is the book for you. Anyways, I will let somebody else go ahead because I will keep talking about it forever because it was so cute.
No, that sounds really good. It's got a really like catchy title. I love the title. Also, is that a YA or is it classed as adult?
It is YA. It's in our teen section. He wrote another YA also that has very similar, like dealing with grief. I think it came out this year or last year, story 2021, so 2020. And it's about a boy and his ex-best friend. His ex-best friend dies, but they're in the future and they can be reanimated for a short period of time. So the boy that who's passed away doesn't know that he died and he has a short time on earth, so his best friend is trying to like rekindle the relationship and fix all of the things that went wrong. So I think this is a theme for this author to deal with death and family and friendship, which I think is amazing. And then that's what I almost forgot, the author Justin Reynolds, just reading his back flap, he's been so many things. Like he's a carpet installer, a NASA intern, steel mill janitor.
NASA? Did you just say NASA?
Yes, I just
so
did.
cool.
Amazing. Like he's done.
Why did you start with carpets then?
Because I was reading and they're like right beside each other. Okay, he lists NASA third. It's not even his first thing.
Amazing.
But
I love him
literally pest control operator is the first thing that he says in his bio. And I'm
He
like,
just
you know
throws
what?
mass in like it's no big deal.
It's right in the
Wow.
middle. Like, yeah.
Kylie, what did you read?
I have it on my phone from Libby. It's Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This was YA fantasy. It was really, really good. So this book, it's West African inspired fantasy. So there's Lily, Amari, Inan, and Zane. And it's actually told from 3 points of view. So it's told from Zaylee's point of view primarily, but also Amari and Inan. And so basically, in this world, it's a fantasy world called Araisha, and magic used to exist. And then one day the king basically decided that magic is too powerful. So he gets rid of magic, and they implement this raid where everyone who has magic is killed. So now there are only Kosidon, who are non-magic wielders, and diviners who could have had magic if magic was still a thing. So Zaylee is a diviner, and basically it's about her kind of dealing with kind of life being not what it should have been for her. When she was little, she was expecting to have magic when she grew older. I think it's around 13 that they would like get their powers. So she was always expecting to be magical like her mom. And basically it's the beginning is her kind of dealing with her struggles in life, and then she meets Amari. And Amari is the princess of this realm. So her father was the one who ordered magic to be destroyed. And so Amari has stolen a magical scroll from her father and is now basically on the run from the guards.
Go Amari.
And right, she's great. So she runs into Zaylee, and they are now basically, Zaylee didn't, want to be on the run from the royal guard, but now she is. And she gets kind of thrown into this mission of like bringing back magic, and it's really, really cool. It is just like this epic fantasy of like traveling all over this continent, meeting so many rebels, and like bringing back magic and fighting against Inan. One of the other points of view is Inan, who is Amari's brother. So he's the crown prince, and Inan fully thinks that magic is terrifying. It's the worst thing ever. It destroys families. But then Inan discovers that he is a diviner, and he didn't know. And so now it's very cool. Inan is getting magic, and he's terrified. And so he's trying to stop Amari and Zaylee from bringing back magic, even though it would benefit him in the end. Very, very cool. There's a lot of drama. It's basically the 4 main characters are 2 sets of siblings. So it's Zaylee and Zane are siblings, and then Amari and Inan. So there's a lot of sibling drama. There's a lot of rebellion, a lot of fights, a lot of just like really cool magic. Really, really good world building. It's amazing. There's like really cool animals in this world. Like it's not lions, they're lionaires, and they have horns. And there's not like leopards, it's lepanaires, and I believe they also have horns. I think basically every animal just like has a slightly different name, and they all have horns. But it's really cool. Like they ride, Zaylee has a pet lionaire named Nyla, who
of course,
basically like they ride, like she's basically their horse. Like they ride Nyla on this journey, and
as
it's just
one
like
does.
that's how they travel, is on their lionaire. It's very cool. It was mind-blowing. I found it a little bit slow at the beginning, and then as soon as the action started, it was intense and massive cliffhanger. So I'm still on hold for the second book, and I'm so sad about it that I don't have it yet, because I read the ending the other day and I was like, wow, where's the next one now?
Is it a trilogy?
Yeah, it's the
Or-
first in a
okay.
trilogy. So there's only 2 books out now. I believe the 3rd book's being published this year, but I might be wrong. Also in 2022, it's supposed to be a movie from Lucasfilm.
Whoa.
Shut the
So
front door.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
God
Lucasfilm. It was
darn.
announced in December that it's going to be apparently released in 2022. So I'm really excited.
That's
amazing.
amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
because like I think we all struggle because we all have our favorite novels. And we all know they've been optioned for movies, and some of us have been waiting since 2016 for the
Right?
Queen of Shadows show. So I'm just saying.
Some of us.
it's been 5 years.
It's been so long. But yeah,
I'm-
apparently this one was optioned in like 2018 and already it's going to be a movie next year apparently.
Brilliant.
I don't know how that's going to
Love
work
that.
with the
I
pandemic.
wonder who's
but
going to be in it.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have
Right?
to read it. I've checked it out a couple of times, but it always sits in that pile, and you're like, oh, I guess I have to return it.
Yeah, it's highly recommend. Really good. Really, once you get kind of right into the action, it's just, I could not put it down. I literally could not put it down.
Kate,
Oh, yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Kate. My pronouns are she, her. So I am a huge fan of classic rock, like huge. And one of my projects for I got a women and gender studies degree and a history degree at U of T. And one of my final projects before the pandemic canceled school was going to be, I was making an archive of Black female musicians who got overlooked in rock and roll history. And I was super excited about it. And then school got canceled. So I didn't end up doing it. But it's something that I'm really, really interested in. And so this month, I bought, first of all, I requested that the library purchase it. And then I didn't want to wait for it. So then I bought it. Be My Baby by Ronnie Spector. And okay, this is old news by the time the podcast comes out, but it was so weird because I was planning on starting this book yesterday. And then I learned yesterday morning that Phil Spector, her husband, the famous music producer, died. And so it was like really weird because I'd been already planning on reading this book. So she is like really cool. She's so beautiful. And
I want that outfit.
I know, right? Like she's such an icon. Look at her eyeliner. So she is a Black Cherokee and white woman who was born in Spanish Harlem in 1943. And she became the lead singer of the group called the Ronettes, who are best known for Be My Baby. And she got married to her producer, Phil Spector, who, if you didn't know, just died in prison for murdering a woman. And so when she was married, or when Ronnie was married to Phil Spector, it was a really emotionally abusive marriage. So he like pretty much had her under house arrest for a lot of the marriage. And so it was like really brutal, but she did manage to escape. Spoiler alert, I guess. She actually had to escape shoeless. Her mom had to come and rescue her, but Phil Spector had taken all of her shoes. Anyway, it's a wild journey that she was on. And this book is really, really well written and super engaging and funny. And it's super interesting to see the effect that the Ronettes and other girl groups at the time had on such huge music acts. Like they toured, I'm not sure if they toured, they opened for the Beatles a few times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the Beatles covered songs by other girl groups at the time. I don't think they ever covered anything by the Ronettes, but like they were all really connected. And Billy Joel writes the forward for this, and
Oh my
Cher
God.
writes an introduction, and like
Whoa.
yeah, so she's
Just
super
stacked.
and nobody talks about her, right? Like, and this happens all the time in rock and roll history. So it's a really fascinating read if you're interested in that time period at all. Highly recommend checking out. It's super cool.
And like a real human being too.
Mhm.
Like-
Yeah. So
Oh, okay. Well, I'm adding that to my list.
yeah,
Totally.
it's really, really cool. And even if you don't know the music, like it's super interesting. Like it's just such a cool period piece. It's awesome.
Oh man. Okay, well, what a tough act to follow. Hi friends, it's Erin again. My pronouns are she, her. And this month I read this really, really cool book called My Sister the Serial Killer. So I'm just gonna show you like Kylie did. Um, I had it on my Kobo, but honestly the cover's too beautiful to show you in black and white. So and the author is Oinkin Braithwaite. And Um, it's a quick read. It's only like maybe 275 pages. I think I read it in a couple of hours, but it was intense and it was really good. And it is exactly as the title suggests. So it's about two sisters, Aola and Karebe. And so Karebe is the oldest sister and she's a nurse and they live in Nigeria, I believe. And the author is from Nigeria too. And Karebe or Aola calls her older sister and basically is like, oh, I did it again because she murdered her boyfriend. Yeah, that's literally how the book starts. And you're like, cool, here we go. So it's really interesting because it's told from Karebe's point of view, the older sister, and you know her being like a medical professional and the older sister in a community where their father has died, so she's sort of like feels like she's responsible for her sister and she has to take care of her, and she essentially helps her like clean up and hide the body, and then you realize that she's done this for her, this is the third time. So it's her whole inner monologue of like, I looked it up online and like, 3 means she's a serial killer. And so she like Aola always has a story. Like she's always like, oh, he attacked me and I defended myself or this and this. But Karebe sees right through it. And it's really interesting because, spoiler alert, but she's into like a doctor at the hospital. And her sister just shows up one day and starts like fancying the doctor and like dating him, and now it's this real big like inner struggle for her because it's like this person that I genuinely care about who's a friend of mine, and I'm worried about his life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh dear.
yeah, it's interesting, and I spent the whole time being just like very angry because Aola is very obviously a sociopath. And she's just that person that I think we all know, not that we all know murderers, but she's that person that we all know, but in some regard who like has an excuse for everything that they do, and nothing for their fault, and everyone else has always slighted them. So it's a really interesting story about like love and family and basically how far you would go for your loved ones, and the ending is really good. Who else read it here? I think Shelby, you read it, right? Yeah, the ending is like incredibly satisfying yet not satisfying. Anyway, I won't spoil it. It's a quick read. If you guys want to read it, it's absolutely incredible. You can kind of sit down and get through it in the afternoon. I'm just going to show it again. It's called My Sister the Serial Killer. Very to the point.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just that's what it's about. My Sister the Serial
Killer. It almost has like a Gone Girl feeling to it, like just as bad, because like it is, I think also her beauty, like her sister's beauty is a huge part of it, and like why she keeps like kind of getting away with it because the only person who truly sees her for who and what she is her sister.
And yeah, on top of that, it's actually a really good conversation that I think a lot of people in that community have had, and I know like I've had this conversation amongst my family members before too, is the ideal beauty standards, especially for women of color, and how ridiculous that is. And it's constantly mentioned that Aola has a lighter complexion than her sister and her mom and most of the people, and how she's almost regarded as like more beautiful that way. I think it's a really interesting point to make, because I think women of color and all different races have to deal with that all the time, essentially being whitewashed or seen as more beautiful because they're lighter. So it's like a nice point that's kind of thrown in there too, with this huge dichotomy in terms of like the people they are at their core. And Karebe being this like wonderful, caring, she's a nurse, she wants to help people, she loves her family, she's a good person at her core, but she's seen as like less attractive than her like, tall, beautiful, lighter skinned sister. So yeah, it was really good.
That's so cool. And actually, Erin, you just reminded me again of my Ronnie Spector book, not to go on about it, but she talks a lot about talks a lot about colorism, and how because she was so much lighter skinned than her mother. And so when she first went down to Florida, she got served at a restaurant, and then they told her mother to leave because, and she was like, that's actually my mother. And so then they ended up leaving. But also she was kind of considered light enough that they were like, you could make it with a white crowd, but she was considered too light, they thought, to make it with Black audiences. So when she played at the Apollo, everyone was saying they don't like light-skinned girls, just to let you know. But she managed to win them over. But yeah, a huge advantage for her was how light-skinned she was. And it's like, and it's really interesting to kind of explore that identity where people thought that they were like, oh, I like Black people, I like the Ronettes, but they've been so whitewashed and pushed to, hide their Black side that, so it's super interesting. And that's really interesting to see that carry through to like modern books. It's still so prevalent.
Hugely prevalent, hugely so. And like you even see it like in the media and stuff now. Like how often do we see, scandals of like, all the things. But anyway, it was a really good commentary, I thought.
No, that sounds really cool. So does it read more as a thriller or more as like, this is like a narrative about a really close person to me?
That's the thing. It doesn't read as a thriller. It very much reads as a narrative. And it's almost like an internal monologue of sorts as well. So you'll get your like a few tense moments where, they have to move the body. And they have to get it from the apartment to the car, and all these things. She's like, I've done this enough that I know like this cleaning solution, like 2 parts alcohol, like 1 part this, like, well, so there are definitely moments where you feel a little tense, but because it's told from the older sister's perspective, it's very much sort of like coming to terms with who her sister is ultimately, and what that means. And what her responsibilities are and how far they extend and how far she's willing to go. And the second you think she's going to break, like it's I would say it's more of a narrative point. Like I wouldn't necessarily.
The way that it's written, like sometimes it's short, like, you know what I mean? Like the visually it looks different too. Like it's shorter sentences sometimes. Like
it almost kind of looks like poetry a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's very much her internal thought process, which is kind of cool. Like you don't read a whole lot of books like that. And I actually kind of do appreciate that it was on the shorter side, because those are kind of hard to read too. Because she's just like watching everything as it happens and then like telling. You're not getting like a full picture story.
I need to read this.
Yeah, it was really like it's a really quick read, but it was an interesting take on something. So I wouldn't like I get where you're going with that, Ashlyn. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to like fans of mysteries and thrillers.
Right.
That's not what it is. But it's very unique, and I haven't read anything like it before. So if anything, it's worth picking up just for that reason alone.
Like I was still anxious. Like the anxiety you get from thrillers, like you're still gonna feel that, but right away that she's a killer, and like she definitely is. You just don't know what her sister's ultimate decision about family and like her choice to help her clean up is gonna be. Like that, I think. And then of course the whole doctor thing, because isn't she also in love with that doctor too? And then he's like totally in love with her sister, and she's like, cool, I know you're gonna die. So it's really good. I would say the same thing. It took me like maybe an afternoon to finish. So if you're looking for something quick on your Sunday, you just want to like say like, hey, I read 1 book this month, like read that one, because it'll be quick and lots of fun, and you won't see where you're going. It's a total roller coaster ride.
No, and like there's actually like, I laughed through it too. Like as like bad as that sounds, is it's got these moments where the sister will go to like post something on Instagram, like a bagel or something redundant. And the older sister's like, hey, no, like your current boyfriend is still missing. You can't post about bagels on Instagram. Like,
Oh no.
got these like funny commentaries, but also she's essentially like teaching her how to be, she's like, hey, normal people wouldn't do this. Right? Normal people wouldn't celebrate something 3 days after their boyfriend is missing. And, so that there's some funny moments too, which is you don't expect it, but yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, it sounds really well rounded. I'm wondering if anyone here has watched the Netflix series Ratched.
Yes,
No, but it's on my
Yeah.
list.
I have.
Okay, so I'm just thinking if listeners have watched Ratched, just a too long didn't read or too long didn't watch. Ratched is it's about Mildred Ratched's character, who I believe is from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, played by Sarah Paulson. But that one is also about a sibling relationship where it's like, how far will you go to protect your sibling who is a serial killer? So I'm thinking like that might be popular. So if you liked Ratched, I haven't read My Sister the Serial Killer yet, but I think your next step is yeah.
What did you read, Ashlyn?
Okay,
Yeah.
so okay, well, my name's Ashlyn, obviously. As everyone just said. Pronouns are she, they. I accidentally came with 3 books. One of them is a young adult book. It's called Everything, Everything, and it's by Nicola Yoon. Okay, so 2 of you have read it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's so good.
Amazing. It is beautiful. Okay, so it's by Nicola Yoon. She is a Jamaican American author, and she has another book that is also really like a bestseller for YA, and both of them, fun fact, have been turned into films. The other book she wrote is called The Sun Is Also a Star, which I have yet to read, but it sounds amazing. But Everything, I thought, yeah, it's a bestseller, but I thought I would bring it up right now because I think it would be an interesting thing to read during lockdown, because the main character, Madeline, is essentially locked down in her house her entire life because what she's always known is that she is allergic to everything. So pretty much she is inside her house. There's really intense air filtration systems. Everything is sent for her. So all of her clothing is the exact same material. She wears the exact same shirt every day. The only thing that changes is the color. And she is homeschooled. So she's basically doing school the way anyone in school right now is doing school. So I think there's an interesting parallel with that, but it's also obviously very different because there's a lot of trauma that of course stems from being inside one place your entire life. But pretty much it becomes a love story because of course boy next door moves in,
Literally.
and yeah, literally that's exactly like he is the boy next door. But pretty much, it's the typical our windows open up like, like in music video style or rom-com movie style.
Taylor Swift, are you okay?
Literally, yeah, You Belong With Me video to a T. But it's a little better. So pretty much like she looks out the window and they start like communicating, and it's really new and exciting. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but she pretty much decides that this boy next door is someone she wants to risk it all for. And she tries some new things, like not being inside, and that obviously stirs the pot and it changes her life completely. And it's really difficult not to spoil it because I really want to say what happens.
Don't do it though, it's so
okay, don't
I
say.
won't spoil
I want to read it.
I won't spoil it, but it's amazing. And it's a movie. It came out a couple of years ago and I watched it. The movie was really great. You can't always say that the film adaptations are as great as the books are, but I think they did it justice with this one. I would say they did a pretty good job.
So it's worth watching as well as reading.
Absolutely. But I would read it first, which is what I would always say.
You're biased. You have to read the book first. It's not the same.
There's so much more information. Like
all the
so much more
details.
motivation about it too. Like, continue. I'm sorry.
And,
again, we could do a whole episode on adaptation.
Oh my god, we should.
I think we are. Yeah,
I think it's on our list.
It's on the list for sure.
Yeah, like here are all the things they did.
Basically, yeah. No, like it's even more fun because you can sit there and be a critic and you're like, I know everything. You know
I don't know why they
nothing.
wouldn't have called
You know
me asking
everything,
for my
everything.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kylie.
Kylie. Nice. Okay, I guess I'll get into the second one. The other one I read, I actually read it a couple summers ago, but I really wanted to bring it up because it's one, I don't know, I haven't really seen it, like maybe I just miss out because I don't really, obviously no one really goes to stores anymore or anything, but I'm not sure if anyone's heard of it, but it's called Brother and it's by David Cherry.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Yeah. I haven't, but I read Sukoyant, his first one.
Okay, I haven't read that one. Okay.
It's intense.
Mhm.
It's good, but it's intense.
Yeah, he's definitely got like a very intense writing style.
Yeah.
But it's like very realistic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Canadian.
Exactly, yeah. So the really cool thing about David Cherry is he actually grew up in Scarborough. So like he's not only Canadian, but he's like extremely local, which is so cool. He actually, side note, came and did a talk at my university, Queen's. Like that's how local he is, and it's really cool. So he is of mixed ancestry. So his father is South Asian and his mother's African. Yeah, so he grew up in Scarborough. And he was saying in an interview how he wanted to talk about his upbringing in a story. So it's not from his point of view, but it really talks about like the way he was raised. So it talks about living in Scarborough, and it's called Brother because it's about two brothers, Michael and Francis. And it just kind of talks about like their own experiences, like going through what it's like to grow up, but specifically what it's like to grow up like being like Black or brown in Canada, which I think is which I think is a really important thing to talk about, because I won't go too deep into this, but I think a lot of the times Canadians kind of hold on to something that people call Canadian exceptionalism, and it's it's kind of this idea that, you know, we don't have it as bad as the States, or we're so lucky. And obviously, like, I'm white, so I am not going to pretend that I know anything about what it's like to experience racism, but I am going to say that it's really important to understand that it happens in Canada. It happens. It happens. And I think this story is really important because it shows, you know, what it's like in Canada. And yeah, but it's a really nice story. One of the things that I really enjoyed about it was that libraries are really big. So I think it's Michael's character. He goes to the library really often with one of his best friends. And it's also really cool because you're like, oh my gosh, which library is this? Like, this is a library that, exactly. You're like, this exists. But it's really cool because it talks about, you know, like libraries as, you know, kind of like a safe public space, like kind of a safe haven, you know, where you can go. And like they talked about, you know, going there in the summers, and it was like, oh, the library had air conditioning. But
it's the same in Sukoyant. He also mentions
really?
He's like, this librarian was so nice to me. So I think he just loves libraries.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Read it now.
Yeah, and it was a very short read. Like I read it over a day or a weekend. Like it's a pretty small book, but it was really good. Yeah, so I would highly recommend that. And I just think it's so cool to like highlight Canadian authors, especially one from Scarborough. Like you could get there in an hour. That's so cool. Yeah.
Well, and when you're reading a book and like you know the place that they're talking about,
it's different,
right? They're like, yeah, I was down at church in Adelaide, and you're like, right? Like you can.
What are you talking about?
I have a friend who's a writer, and she took a class, and she was telling me it was really interesting how, and again, I'm not speaking from experience. This is just a story I was told, but she was saying how a lot of people of certain races get really frustrated with always being like described akin to like food, or like stop saying my eyes look like almonds, like, you know, stop saying my skin looks like chestnut, like just call a spade, don't feel like you have to tiptoe, like it's almost like I think it's an interesting point. And I also think like when you were saying Canadian, it's like it's not the same at all, but I know we all try to read books with like good representation, and everyone wants to be able to see themselves in some form in a book. And it's kind of cool as Canadians, because we don't get a lot of that in like TV or movies or publishing, to be like, oh, you know, I've been like that, a bit of recognition that makes you sort of like connect, regardless of whether it's like time, place, ethnicity, gender, whatever. It just sort of makes you connect to the book more. I think that's a good point to make too.
And I think
Yeah.
what I
I'm
also love is the diversity in YA. Sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
it really seems like a lot of the diversity is coming from YA right now. And I think there's a girl who does the book covers. We all watch, you know, Insta Reels, and
Yeah.
she showed us all of the books that she did this past year. And I was like, they were such phenomenal book covers.
Yeah.
They were diverse characters on the front of the covers. They were beautiful. And I think a lot of it stems from like our generations starting to become more prominent in publishing and in creation, and
Yep.
we're really kind of trying to showcase that. And I just, every book that she held up that she had drawn, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, like I love this. And a lot of them are very interesting like colorful books, and
Yep.
they're very eye-catching, and they're so different to what we're used to seeing. And that's one of the reasons why I love YA so much. Like there's so many places to go, but so much diversity and so much effort to push the boundaries of where we're going.
Yeah.
Then that's why I
No.
love reading YA.
That's a good point. And I also like wanted to bring up, which you did earlier when you were talking about your book, is like, it's so nice to read something that's positive, because I feel like people of color have such like a tragic history. And obviously there are like incredible books written about those histories, because it really wasn't that long ago, and we really need to be brutally reminded of it consistently. Please and thank you. But on the other hand, it's really nice to see things told like from a positive point of view, like the whole Dani Brown, like the Brown sisters, like, you know, romance series is so lovely, where it's just, it is what it is, and it's not a negative story, it's a positive story. And you know, I think like most of us as well watched Bridgerton. We've been talking about it forever, and just like the diversity in Bridgerton. And the interview I watched with the main guy, and he was like, it's really nice to be able to play a lead and like not have to play, you know, something that makes me sad. Like it's nice to be like happy and tell a happy story. So that's not to say that the other stories don't need to be told, but it's nice to have the two now.
Yeah, because love and friendship and family are a part of all of our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
And as much as, yes, what's happened to the Black community and what's continued to happen to the Black community is absolutely terrible and atrocious. And I think, you know, we still need to tell those stories of, you know, love and beauty and, you know, having fun with your friends and having meaningful relationships, because at the end of the day, like, you need to be able to heal as well, and having that kind of support in your life. It's just as important as seeing that represented in the books that you read or the TV shows that you watch. And I think Bridgerton is an excellent example of taking a book that was fully just all white characters, you know, in the 1800s in England, and making that simple choice, just make it diverse. And I freaking loved that. Every single person that you looked at was living their best lives in that TV show. They were wearing their hair in all different kinds of ways, like really
like she had dreads, but it was still Victorian style. Like it was done so well.
So
like
beautiful.
The cultures were done so beautifully.
And I
had a little bit of everyone.
It's just such a beautiful story, and everyone is so happy and beautiful and full of life and excitement. And I do appreciate that they made the choice to discuss what happened as well. We've all kind of talked about this before, but it's such a pivotal moment and so important, because I know you can make the choice to just not say anything at all and be like, this is just the way it's always been. But I think it's also the believability that we're all sitting here like, you need to address the fact that, you know, this is a huge part of our history and like our lives, and we need to address it. And, you know, it also added a bit more to the story for me than what was originally there. Like there's a lot higher stakes, because, you know, it was a mixed race relationship, and it's still new to the world. And, you know, just because the king made that choice does not mean that everybody gets to make that choice. And I think
they did address that, but they also
gave
like
a lot more validation.
They addressed it, but they didn't make it pivotal. They were just sort of like, and now we all just like, you know, it's, you know,
go back
copacetic,
to being
which is
adorable.
Yeah, it was nice to just see it. Yeah, it was nice to just see it, like people. You're right, living their best life, and everyone.
And it was nice just to be like, oh, wouldn't it be great if it were that simple? Like if the king just married a Black woman, and it was like, oh, that's fine now.
Like, it would be so simple. I know, like, not that it matters, but like, you know, my mom's Black and my dad's white, and he's also from the South in the US, so like that was a big deal. He didn't talk to his parents for a really long time, so you know, and we still live that occasionally, once in a while. So it's really it's it's so nice to see it on screen, and everyone's just like, yeah, cool, let's go. Like, what's up? Who do you have a crush on today? Like,
I was waiting for it to be a huge like thing where people were like, why is it a diverse cast? Like, why is it like this? And not anymore.
I think there have been a few critics being
yeah.
like, oh, well,
Yeah,
it's not
happen.
like historically accurate. And
Yeah.
you're like, no.
Fiction.
And it was the character who plays Penelope. I know we're supposed to be talking about books. Sorry, Ashlyn. It was the
No, no.
character. Ashlyn does all of our editing, so we have to when we go on rants. It was the character who plays Penelope, and she's like, you know what? I kind of think it's beautiful. Like, you can suspend your belief for dragons in Game of Thrones. Like, why can't you suspend your belief for this?
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a simple, right? Like, not everything has to be a fight. Like, not everything has to be a battle. Like,
And it was
we just have those
immediate,
things.
though. Like, I immediately bought into it. Like, when I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
the
I was like,
characters,
oh, yeah,
I was
that sounds
like,
great.
oh, this is going to be interesting. But as soon as it started, I was like, you know what? No, like, I believe
There
this
we are.
100%. Like, this is what the world was supposed to look like when
Yeah.
she wrote this book. Like, such a phenomenal TV show, so beautiful, so well done in so many different ways. And I want to go leave and watch it again right now.
Same.
Oh my gosh.
What was your last book, Ashlyn? Because I think this one's important to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, okay. So the last one, it is apparently I'm big on bringing up graphic novels on this podcast. So it's another graphic novel. It's actually a series. It started out as a webcomic a couple years ago. I didn't learn about it until it was already published, but it's called Check Please, and it's by Ngozi Ukazu. And she's American, but she has Nigerian ancestry. And these books, sorry, I read the first two. I think there's a couple more out now. They're so sweet. I think it's a really, really good narrative around positive masculinity. I think that can be hard to come by. And it's especially interesting because they live in, it's not a frat, but it's a bunch of boys and they play college hockey. They all live in a house together. So, like, listener, I understand if you're sitting there thinking that sounds like horrible. That's like toxic masculinity. These boys are just so sweet. Like, they just love each other and they care about each other so much, and like they really uplift each other. And the main character, Eric, Biddy, his last name's Biddle, but they all have like their cute little hockey nicknames. It's really sweet. But the main character, Biddy, he's gay, but he's not really out to his team yet. But then kind of a romance develops with one of the other guys on the team, and it's really, really sweet. It's a really great book because like I mean, personally, like, I am very into hockey literature. It's kind of a very like niche genre, but I really love it. I played hockey, so like that's probably why. But I also know a ton of non-hockey players who absolutely loved reading this and reading other hockey lit. So I would recommend it just if you're kind of into, I don't know, like if you want a story about positive masculinity. So it's really sweet. One of the things that, I wanted to talk about. So Ngozi Ukazu, the author, I'm not sure if she's also the illustrator. I will fact check that and throw it in the description. But so most of the main characters are white. There are, I think there's maybe like one Black character, and then like maybe a couple other characters of color. But I think that's really something to talk about, because maybe you would look on the cover and you would not expect that it was written by a Black woman. And I think that's an important conversation. We were kind of talking about this earlier, but about how—
Show us the cover.
I don't have it, but if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be like in the bottom right corner.
What's it called? I'll pull it up and I can show it on the screen while you're chatting.
Oh, perfect. It's called Check Please.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I think that's just like a conversation to be had, because I think sometimes when you're reading like books that are not all white characters, the covers aren't always reflective of the characters. And I think sometimes, like, unfortunately, there's a lot of like racist bias in publishing that.
Mm-hmm.
So are all the characters like actually people of color? It's just on the book cover they're not? Or
no, like the characters, most of the characters are white.
Okay.
So so
it's like a really valid point to make, that I don't think I think you're right in that I don't think a lot of that is as obvious sometimes. Like I feel like publishers like, oh, it'll sell better if you just, you know, put a white guy on the front.
Yeah, and actually often omitting the character from the cover, like if you ever read
or putting
any
them in the
fiction
background.
or if you ever
Like
read
this-
any fiction by Helen Oyeyemi,
Yeah.
Boy Snowbird or White is for Witching, like you wouldn't know from looking at the cover that it was about mostly Black characters. Like you wouldn't know that it's about race. And it's an interesting choice because a lot of contemporary fiction like does have the characters on the cover, but often they'll omit it if it is a Black character.
Yeah, true, you're right. Or they'll get put in like in the background.
Yeah.
Where you're like, nope, not a sidekick, it's still relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think publishing kind of remains like kind of a mystery to a lot of people, especially if you're not maybe involved in like in libraries or bookstores or things like that. But yeah, I think one thing to say is that authors have less control over how their book gets published and promoted and distributed than you would think. I mean,
their cover, like people don't realize that.
Absolutely.
Like,
they don't pick that cover. Like in one of
No.
my reference classes, my prof was showing us an example of a cover that was proposed for her book with I think it was like the Black protagonist was like walking away, and then the publisher sent it back with a white person on the cover, and that's prominent.
Yeah. So and not only that is like, I know we've all heard stories and like we hear about it too because we work in the industry of, you know, them not being paid the same amount of advances as someone else. And it's, you know, especially if you've got a name, I think a lot of people with unique names deal with this. If you have a name that doesn't sound inherently white, like, you know, the odds of them reading your manuscript are statistically lower, and just like all of that kind of stuff. So I think even in 2021, there are so many barriers for people of color to kind of break into any type of media. I think it needs to be noted. So
I think there was an author that went on like a Twitter thing and posted all of her information about what each of her book advances got it. And she was, I think, a pretty prominent author. Again, I don't remember her name. I'd have to look it up, but it was really interesting to see her break it down, like what she was getting opposed to some of maybe like her white colleagues who, you know, they wrote one book and they're like, oh, we're going to give you like an advance for you to write 3. Whereas like with her, she wrote her book and then they were like, well, we'll see. And then, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was really interesting to read that whole discussion because obviously I don't know anything that goes on in publishing. The library world is different than publishing and is political in different ways, I would say. But like the other thing is like a lot of people of color who are writing stories about people of color, like there's just nobody on the cover most of the time. Like American Dirt, nobody. Vanishing Half, no one on there. Like it's just
Washington
like,
Black,
everything,
and everything,
Brother.
Marriage.
So I think like it just in general, it's like you chose that for a reason, and a lot of people aren't, you know, told to analyze what they're being given in the book, right? Like that is something you're definitely taught over time, but there, like I think it's changing slightly, and you can see the change slowly, but it's like it's not that complicated. Like I started reading Queenie first, and so I have the cover for Queenie. Absolutely beautiful cover, absolutely adore it. It's her hair, and in this one she's wearing 2 earrings. Another one she's wearing a big hoop. But her hair is very prominent in the story, and people trying to touch her hair, and she's like, don't touch my hair, bro. Like it took a lot of work to get it here. Like, do not touch a Black woman's hair. And it's reiterated over and over and over again. And Queenie is Bridget Jones-esque in the sense that it's a single woman in, you know, London going through a bad breakup, but that's like literally where it ends. And it does not go well for her at all. Not that I'm talking about the entire story. It was an interesting book. I only got about halfway through and I picked up Opposite of Always and I fell in love. So I have to get back to Queenie eventually, but like that simple moment of just putting her hair on the cover is enough to tell me about that story, right? So I don't see why the book cover can't just include whatever the author wants to include.
I think the huge takeaway from this, hopefully today, can just be question what you're reading.
Mhm.
always. Like, that's not a bad thing, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with picking up a book just to enjoy it, because we all love a good romance novel with a happily ever after. But
Yep.
It does help. It helps, like, the more that you read, the more you learn to question, the more you have an idea of what's going on, and maybe get inside the head of the author and to say, like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe they're not writing the story because it's a positive one, but because it's a negative one, and this is how
and
this
because it
person.
needs to be told. Yeah. Maybe you'll notice things more than you did before, and it's not a bad thing.
I mean, we're meant to question what we're reading. And I think a lot of what's going on right now with the pandemic and what's going on in the States, like, we're learning more and more to question what we're seeing. Like, what is the motivation behind writing this story? And I think it all makes us better readers too, to take that moment to really analyze what you're choosing to read.
I was just gonna say, speaking of an uncomfortable read, I was gonna bring it up earlier, and then the conversation changed completely. But there's another book, I guess it's a play that I want to plug. It's called Toronto the Good, and it's by Andrew Moody. And so it is a play. So it's a really fast read, but it focuses on the idea of Toronto as like this safe space for everyone, and it's the story of it's a white cop racially profiles a Black person in a car, and it's the story of the trial. And so it touches on gun violence and racial profiling in Toronto, and it doesn't have any clear-cut answers. Like, there's never any like, this is, this was racial profiling, or like, it kind of explores all of the different perspectives on the issue, and it's fascinating, and it's really a cool thing to read because it is about Toronto again. Like, it's about where we're from, and it's about people that we know, and it's good to remember that all this stuff goes on in Canada too, where we think we put ourselves up on a pedestal. We're like, oh, that's going on down in the States, we're fine here. It's like, no, you got to question it, and you got to realize that this happens here, and you got to be uncomfortable with the place that you live too. You need to see it for what it is. So
love that.
sorry,
Well,
I'll
add that to my
one in
list.
there.
No, I think that's good. I actually think it's like a good place to wrap up for today too. And just like, if there's going to be any takeaway, again, we're just here as allies. We're not pretending to be experts at anything, but I think even from the beginning, our goal is to give you a book that you can hopefully see yourself in, no matter, how you identify or who you identify as. So, even though we're talking about, or we're featuring Black authors and stories about people of color because it's Black History Month, that doesn't mean that we're only going to talk about it this month. So we're going to continue to bring you, we're going to try to continue to bring you a diverse reads, like I said before, that hopefully everybody can see themselves in. So we just really love books, listeners. We just want to tell you how to read the good ones.
Exactly. And we want you to tell us what you think. So we have an email. You can reach us at podcast@whitbylibrary.ca. You can tweet at us, comment on Facebook. We're also going to be on YouTube, so leave your comments. And if you want to talk about us, make sure to use the hashtag Doorway to Discovery.
Yeah, and I mean, send us an email too. We love talking about books. Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, if you have questions, if you need some recommendations, we love recommending books, as you can see.
The WPL 2020 list went up, and so all of our top picks are on there as well. I think there's like 85 items or something.
There's a lot.
I'm like, ooh, us at the library, we like to read.
Yeah, who
so
knew librarians like to read?
Right?
And
like, who knew we wanted to talk about books?
Who
Not
knew?
me.
I think Ashlyn's also going to be doing a WPL podcast list. So anytime that we mention a book, or, we forget to bring the cover or whatever reason, a lot of the books that we talk about are available through our library system. And we're going to be creating biblio lists. So you can go in, look for whatever week of our podcast that we talked about a million books, and put a hold on that book as well. So keep an eye out for that. So yeah.
We also have library to go kits for kids and adults now. If you're looking for something to read, but you're not really sure what you want, you can fill out an online form, and someone in the library will find you some books. So
Yeah, and if you don't want a kit to take home, we have our DiscoverReads form you can fill out as well, which is just a list of books we think you might like. So
yes.
we got it all. We're covering all of our bases.
Yeah, we're here to help. And everything will be in the description, or if you're listening, also in the description. But
Perfect.
yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. And we will see you again in 2 weeks to talk about the
Bye.
library.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.